I clicked the start button. People are now joining. That's fantastic. Hello, everyone. We're getting started any second now. People are streaming in, and I'm already tossing my first webinar cliche out. It is 5:30 in Oslo, Norway right now, where I'm sitting. It's a crispy 10 degrees outside. And I am ready to talk Forma with all of y'all. That is the half-minute mark. Should we have some awkward silence, or should we just get started? Anyway, I'm just going to introduce myself, talk a little bit about myself, then we'll get started. So people that don't care about me still catch the presentation, and people that do care about me are already here, right? So my name is Jesper Stahl. I am a licensed architect in Norway, and I am part of the technical marketing at Autodesk, which means I get to do stuff like this, talk about the cool stuff we have and how to use them. With me in chat and in the Q&A section, I've got Sophia, I've got Lisa, and I've got Amira. So feel free to post any questions you may have in the Q&A section. Lisa will be working hard to answer anything that comes as we go, but there's also going to be a Q&A section in the end. I am lucky enough to sit here with you guys today. I jumped on this last minute. I just got back from parental leave, sort of got back into the stride of things, and then I fell and broke my arm. So I was going to do some live designing for you guys today, but I'm not. I'm going to show you a couple of slides. I hate slides. I think there's 13 of them. And then we'll play around a little bit in Forma Site Design to show you what it's all about. Because, you know, seeing is understanding. And then we'll play it by ear from there. Sounds good? Good. Can you all hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up in something. There's a raised hand from Rick. Some people are raising hands. Can't do much about the raised hands. I can see the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Let's get started. So, yeah, now that we're all here, let's get into it. What is Forma Site Design? So before we start, I need to do one of these legal pages because that's just how the world is. We are going to be talking about some forward-looking statements. And as you know, forward-looking stuff, these plans might change. I am going to be demoing live and released features, so you'll be seeing what's in the product today. But I also kind of live in the future working at Autodesk, and I'm excited to talk about the upcoming features as well. So I'm leaving this page up in case I say something I shouldn't. Anyway, the point here is make purchasing decision based on what the software can do for you today, not what it may do for you tomorrow, right? Any statements I make today regarding planned or future development efforts for our product is not a promise or a guarantee that that's going to be an available feature in the future, but it's a reflection of current plans. So yeah, best of both worlds, right? Anyway, in order to talk about Forma Site Design, we just need to recap a little about what Forma is. And I'm sure some of you never heard about Forma before today, and some of you have heard a lot of different things from different sources. So I'm just going to break this down in layman terms for you, and then we'll get into it. First question is, where have you heard about Forma already? And if you found it in your AEC collection, good job. I know most people don't browse the AEC collection, but there's a lot of good stuff there. I hope friends have told you about it. I hope you've catched some of on social media. Usually, sometimes it's my face, sometimes it's somebody else's face. Anyway. So, Forma's vision. This is the big thing. So the Autodesk vision to establish Forma as the AEC industry cloud. It is about supporting the full asset lifecycle from planning through design, construction, and operations. And in this camera, I guess it's going to be the other way around. So that means that all of your Autodesk data from pre-designed models and analysis into detailed Revit models into ACC can be centralized in one cloud-based location with no migration required. I know that's a pain in And this is all supported by the Autodesk Platform Services and the AEC data model APIs and the data exchanges we have. So you'll have direct cloud access to the common data environment, that's the vision, without the need to write application and plugins to retrieve data. This means you'll be able to connect data across Autodesk and non-Autodesk tools in order to have a true data interoperability. Forma is being designed to bridge these softwares, these processes, and these teams across the entire ecosystem. That's the big promise of Forma Industry Cloud, which is kind of the buzzword. Now, if we break this down into what it is today, what you're probably seeing in your AEC collection, this is what the offering looks like today. So in the planning phase, we have Forma in market, as we refer to it, for a while now, which is, I'll admit, a bit of a confusing naming given that there's a Forma Industry Cloud and the Forma in market offering. But the Forma in market is an early stage planning and feasibility tool. Once you're past your conceptual design and feasibility study, the offering then becomes the tried and true, the Revit and the AutoCAD, if you're so inclined. And then as development progresses and you're past the schematic design phase, that's when coordination and construction looms and the offering is handed off to ACC, to Autodesk Construction Cloud, in all its different modules. So from Docs to BIM Collaborate Pro to ACC. And you'll have tools such as, build or take off to get the job done in that phase. When we talk about the common data environment, that would be Autodesk Docs, as you can see in this timeline below. I'll point my mouse at it, Autodesk Docs. And that's the let's call it the OneDrive of Autodesk, if you will. But it does so much more than store file, which is why it's a data environment. It's not just a file storage solution. It's the backbone for this whole life cycle. Now, Autodesk University happened a couple of weeks back, and I promised you guys I would recap a little bit what happened there. So this is what happened at Autodesk University. First of all, there's 3 elements here you should pay attention to. First of all, we announced that Autodesk Docs will become the Forma data management instead. So it's a common data environment that now takes the Forma brand, right? So just as with Docs, it is included in the AEC Collection, standalone, and as a freebie with some select subscription types like standalone Revit. Basically, no changes here. If you're using Docs today, it's just going to have a new branding. Personally, I was a fan of the Docs name, actually. It's a misnomer, since it's not simple a file repository, but it was, descriptive and easy to pick up. I'll grow to love Forma data management, I promise. We also announced the concept of Forma connected clients, which you'll see under design. These are clients that utilize Forma capabilities natively within its own software. So imagine how you today access Forma Site Design through your Chrome browser. You will in the future access relevant parts of Forma directly in your Forma connected client. And the first announced client of these FCCs or Forma connected clients is, of course, Revit. You may also notice the announcement of Forma Building Design here, which is a, how should we describe this? It's a Forma-style tool palette that supports floor plans, facades, and programs, all in one sort of contextual and cloud-native design surface for architects, which include generative design capabilities. So it's bridging the design gap between conceptual massing and exploration and to Revit and schematic design in smoothly. Yeah, so the topic of today and the subject of this webinar is what used to be Forma in market, which is now Forma Site Design. And that's where we're going to go for here. So let's just dive into it. What is Forma Site Design? Forma Site Design is, or will soon be, if I get it my way, your preferred way of starting new projects. It is a promise on how to set up sites, to get contextual data, to get massing studies on site, to analyze them, and to understand the feasibility of the job you have at hand. Who's it for? It's most of our user base right now is architects, landscape architects, urban planners, urbanists. Beloved child have as many names as there's a saying in Norwegian. But we also see people either representing the industry as a contractor or as on the municipality side, for example. We also see feasibility teams from the owner side using this tool. So you are ideally someone working in the earliest stages of a project. You need to understand potential, manage risk in the earliest sort of days. If you're an engineer or a construction guy, there are things there for you as well, but you'll be more interested in other parts of Autodesk and Forma, at least at this time. So let me break it down. So Forma Site Design, it's cloud-based. That is kind of, we're starting from the start here. It's cloud-based and it helps us start projects with real-world data to create and test dozens of design options in minutes, and then see impacts of your design decisions on things such as sunlight, noise, and energy, and wind. But maybe more importantly, to really understand the potential of your site. Now, back in my practicing days, me and the principal architect of my studio, we were the spearhead of landing bids. That was kind of what we were doing. We were keeping our design studio busy. So if you are the same kind of role, or maybe more of a jack of all trades, or maybe in the competition team at your studio, let me know if this resonates with you. This, what sold me on the idea anyway. So you got, you're sitting down and suddenly you have 2 weeks or 1 week or a few days to come up with a pitch for a project, right? It's a sort of go, no go signal for a potential client before signing contracts for work. Maybe you've got a school or a hospital, an urban plan competition with some insane deadline that's looming. And so what the first thing you need is contextual data. You've got to set up a site, you've got to georeference a site, you've got to get surrounding context, you need buildings, roads, orthophotos, and you preferably need it yesterday and definitely don't need your intern to spend 3 days making it. And you probably want to do this without investing too much capital or sweat into this because you're basically doing this to land a job, right? Forma Site Design does an excellent job at solving that issue for you. I mean, there are high quality data you can purchase for a price later on. There are services you can do, but just getting sort of off the ground, getting it georeferenced, getting it placed in the real world, gets you started with projects, right? Next up, once you have this, is you need massing options on site. You need to understand your program, you need to understand your density, and you need to understand how that affects your context around you. So you need design options, and that is something to bring to the table to discuss. It's like, hey, I think we can do this much density on the site. Does this smell like a business deal or does it not? And, you may prefer to do this in SketchUp or in Rhino or in Revit or just anywhere. But you can also do this natively and then intuitively directly in Forma Site Design. And, this may be just, the hazard of the job I have at Autodesk, but I am noticing a trend with myself where more of these sort of massing studies, I prefer to do them directly in Forma rather than what I would do in the past, which is almost exclusively imported from my favorite design tools. But either way, you need massing options in order to assess your site. Next up, and this is the big one, environmental analyses. So you have context and you have massing options. So you have the foundation needed to run environmental analysis. It knows where it is in the world. So sun position is correct. Traffic data can be adjusted or pulled from databases. And most importantly, you need to know, am I within the regulation? Am I achieving the density my client needs? Or do I have, and then the question comes, do I have enough daylight to do this? Will this traffic from this road impact my design decisions, my facades, where I place my buildings even? And sort of what can I glean about possible embodied carbon situations in my design at this time? So I've told you basically nothing. What can you tell me? That's kind of the situation you are in with Forma Site Design at this point. This is good stuff. Now, next up is the Forma Board. And that is a relatively new offering. It's a collaboration tool. It's one of those infinite whiteboards like you probably use in other cases in your studio already. The benefit here is that it's connected to your Forma projects and it's connected to Autodesk Docs. So you can pull in live widgets showing these analyses you've ran, these massing options you've ran. You can pull in 3D models directly from Forma, but also from Docs. I mean, shouldn't say Docs, I should say Forma Data Management, even though the rebrand isn't happening quite yet. So whatever you have there, you can put on the board and then be discussed. Post-its, comments, hand drawings, all the good stuff. I'm going to show you a little bit about this in a second. Lastly is the open APIs and the ecosystem around Forma, and specifically in this case, Forma Site Design. So you can customize your Forma Site Design to your needs by creating or adding extensions that suits your use case. So it can be relatively intuitive things like connecting Rhino to Forma so you can send data back and forth, or ArcGIS to Forma, or Revit, or you can customize things like using Dynamo or Grasshopper to do visual scripting things to make Forma do stuff for you. Or you can do completely bespoke extensions, either custom made for yourself and maybe even in some cases make it open source or sell it. The interesting part here is that there's, no matter sort of what you're doing, if it's data centers or if it's hospital, there's probably something here for you. And on that note, let's just ask the question. So why are you attending this webinar? There's a poll coming up in a second. If I can just find the button, or if Sophia can help me. And this is just so we understand you better. Are you a completely new person? Have we met the people we think we're meeting, or are you kind of a returning Forma enthusiast, and we met and maybe spoke a year ago or 2 years ago? Hopefully, you're new or you've never used and you want to learn more. I see there's some regulars. Hey, regulars, remember me? I've been on for a year. I was on parental leave. Happy to be back. Anyway, that was my slides. Let's get on with it. Show, not tell. This is attributed to Mark Swan, but I guess I can't use the M dashes anymore because you guys all think I'm AI. So we're changing it to show, not tell. Easy change, right? I'm going to switch my screen over, and then you guys let me know if you are seeing the same browser that I am showing. Let's see. Screen sharing. Yeah, you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. I see the thumbs up. Thank you for that. So I've got 4 tabs up here. Usually I would just run through this manually, but my right hand is broken. So I'm doing some left-hand work here today. This is what Forma Site Design looks like. This is where you've logged into Forma and you're in this hub. And you have all your projects on your left-hand side, left and right, really hard for me to remember which is which. And you've got all your projects. And from here, you can either start new projects, new sites on different projects, start new boards, or even just run up a demo site to figure it out. The first thing we're going to be doing here in my architecture archives, I have an insane amount of hubs because usually you would have your design studio, maybe some collaborator hubs there. I have all kinds because I've been messing around for too much. I'm going to make a new project. And we're going to name this Show, Don't Tell. And I'm going to create it. So, let's see, I'm not going to invite any of you guys. Sorry, if you want an invite, hit me up on LinkedIn afterwards and I'll search you out. Just going to use me. Boom. And we're going to make a site. Now, this is kind of the big globe. Go wherever you want to go in the world, create wherever you want to create. Different places in the world have different data availabilities. You're connecting to local sources, and your experience is partially tailored to the location you're in. So, for example, if you make something in the US, you'll have metrics around gross floor area, whereas if you do something in France, you'll have the French equivalent. Now, let's just do something. Let's do Berlin. Boom. Germany, yes, that is the place. Lovely city. If you haven't been, you should check it out. It always amuses me, the sort of rebuilding after the war and the 2 different kinds of the city merging together, and it's just kind of, you can kind of feel where you are if you're in the east or in the west, depending on traffic lights or the metro system. It's fascinating, even today. So you can pick wherever you want your site to be, and you confirm your map area. And that's it. You have a georeference model somewhere in Berlin. This thing builds up, takes a couple of spins, and then you can start ordering data. And by ordering data, I mean not as in necessarily paying for it. There are paid data sources. There are also free ones. So wherever there are free alternatives, we try to connect to those. Wherever there are good paid ones in the air, we connect to those. And Germany is really good at sharing sort of better contextual data. So usually you'll have a site and you'll get prompted to order your data immediately. So you can sort of pick, oh, okay, we have got a Gebäudemodell, that's a good German word, I guess, from the GeoPortal in Berlin with LOD2, LOD1. So there's different. There's OpenStreetMaps, which is a free alternative worldwide where I'll be honest, like if you're in a major metropolitan area, it's pretty good, but it's still LOD1. That's, boxes with correct heights. If you're in a more rural area, you're going to get footprints and maybe like a default height of buildings. So you need to be kind of aware of what's another word for the word I want to be using. Whatever you put in is what you get out. Good quality in, good quality out. Now, if I just order a data package like this, I'm going to get buildings, I'm going to get roads, I'm going to click order. And these things are just going to get placed in the model, correctly georeferenced, as soon as they're done. So there's data order, roads, you'll see those pop in. That's the roads. Interestingly enough, these roads have, and I don't know if you guys can see this, maybe I should have zoomed in a little bit. Should I zoom in my UI? Thumbs up if I should. Okay, we'll just run with it. And buildings flying in. Okay, there's a couple of thumbs ups. I'm going to give it a zoom in or two. How do I do this? On my there we go. Better? A little bit better. I get kind of freaked out when the UI is too big, but I know you guys might be watching from a smaller screen than the one I'm using here. So this is the georeference data. This is the contextual data, and you can see from the roads that they have a speed limit, but no ADT, so annual daily traffic. So you get some information, not all information in this case. Now, with this, sort of built georeference model, you're kind of good to go to start building and designing and massing your project out. Now, I'm not going to do designing again because that's, a time sink and a half. Let's just jump on over to this project I've been working on in the past to show you sort of where I want you to end up. And before we jump on over to the design tools, I wanted to ask you the last poll of today, I promise, but what tools do you typically use for your early stage designs today? Is it, what kind of modeling tool is your favorite? And don't worry, I won't get offended if Autodesk Forma is not yet your favorite. You can see there's a lot of Revit, I can see there's a lot of Rhino, I can see there's a lot of SketchUp. I was a SketchUp, more a SketchUp guy than a Rhino guy myself. Just something about teaching people a very simple sort of 3D modeling tool like that. It's satisfying, but it does have its backside, I guess. But yes, you guys all know. So this is roughly where I would like you to end up once you've done some designing. I'm going to turn off the labels for a second. So this is a French city, and I'm going to try to avoid pronouncing the French stuff because I pronounce it correctly, and people will think I'm stuffy, or the French people in the comments is going to tell me I'm pronouncing it wrong and get offended. So, can't win. I'm just joking. This is the kind of mass modeling you would ideally like to do in Forma Site Design to sort of start informing your design. And you see here, I have a bunch of different proposals. They're all kind of variations of the same. I want to point out sort of the most important part is the area metrics on the right side. So once you've made these kind of designs, you see they have floors, they have sizes, and it starts breaking down the percentage of your site, the GFAs, this is then the French equivalent, and a breakdown of program given that you've specified your program. So this is kind of the I achieved the 31,000 I needed in order for this project to be viable at all. And the next question is, okay, based on this design, where are my risks? Where can I decrease risk? You guys know how this goes, right? Now, this is all built directly in Forma. So these are native things, and I can kind of start adding, let's add a couple of more floors. Let's maybe cut one here. You know, we do these kind of design changes. You see you have some slanted walls. You can do all these kind of basic mass modeling tools. You know, most people, when you start using this, is like, well, okay, this is okay. I prefer the control I have in my preferred mass modeling tool. But these are really great just because of the sort of intuitiveness it gives. So if you can do very simple stuff like this purple one, you can start to slant walls and play with this. This is inspired by a French architecture firm that's actually building on this site or finished this design a while back. And I'll name drop them afterwards. And you can kind of get into the level of detail where you're actually kind of suggesting unit mixes, if you'd like. You don't have to. This is kind of beyond the scope of a site design, but it might be interesting for you to just kind of box out, you know, how many 40 to 60 square meter apartments do you have, how many 60 to 75, and so on. You can get, you know, you take this as far as you want. Make sure you don't go too far. You know what happens? You kind of need to do reworks, right? But the hope here is generally you shouldn't be able to go too far here without being able to bring this with you. So what you're looking at on screen here is something you can, this could have been done in Rhino with the contextual data sent. I'll show a video of that. This could also be done here and then sent to Revit, and you can continue from there. Now, once you have a georeference model and you have a massing option that you believe in, you are then enabled to start running analysis on these. And you can do stuff like sun hour analyses or daylight potential analysis. You know, again, daylight potential, it's not true daylight because I haven't designed any windows. I haven't told you what kind of glass I'm using in this building, but I can tell you something about if you do conventional window design, the potential for enough daylight is so and so. Really interesting to see sort of what you can learn without telling too much. There are very interesting analysis such as wind analysis. You'll see Danish architects get really excited about this. Dutch architects find this really interesting, whereas people in less windy areas are kind of like meh. What you just saw happen on screen is interesting as well. This is a rapid wind analysis. It's a predictive machine learning model. So based on this model is trained to predict what a real simulation will be like. You can also run a detailed analysis, which is an assessment for wind, which is our by far slowest. It takes 30 to 90 minutes to run a full 360 detailed wind analysis with slip streams and everything. And you can kind of use this as a predictive normer for what's going to happen. A better example is perhaps the noise analysis. So noise analysis here, you're looking at the rapid predictive machine learning model. And because there's traffic on this road has a traffic of 10,000 annual average daily traffic. And obviously you can play with scenarios. You can have one where it's like, what happens if this street becomes a pedestrian street? What happens if traffic doubles within the next 5 years? You can sort of play with these scenarios in order to make sure that your project is de-risked. The predictive model gives you a sort of a best guess of what it's going to look like once you analyze it. And then once you've analyzed it, you kind of come into a world where there's actually ran a simulation on it. So that is going to be my third. And remember from the 5 value props I showed you, so the first one is contextual data. We set up a project. Next one is modeling, which is what we'll be talking about now. And the third one is environmental analysis. I always get stuck up that as long as I get my area metrics correct, you know, that's the minimum viable product in order to say something about the viability of a project. Getting these quality analyses kind of opens you up to a whole new level of insights. So here I've pulled up, so these apps, they are available here. This is Forma Site Design, there's a board, and now we're going to jump into Compare, which is one of my favorite ways of showing off these analyses. So here I've put up, and I'm going to reset the UI because that's big. Here I've put up the same design, but analyzed 4 different ways. So we are looking at solar energy analysis. We're looking at daylight potential. So starting from top left, solar energy analysis, and we can look for the whole building surface. On top right, we're looking at daylight potential, which we talked about briefly. Bottom right, we're keeping the area metrics in mind. Bottom left, other way around. Bottom left, bottom right. Bottom right, we're looking at sun hours. So solar energy analysis is interesting. If you're looking for PV panels, if you're looking for, is this a project for me for this, then you want to pay attention to this. You can then estimate, say, only roofs, and let's say the surface coverage here is at 60%. You tell me if that's realistic or not. And the panel efficiency is 15%. That's relatively conservative, right? And you can start looking at these projects. Tell me, should I even be discussing it? But more interestingly, if you are looking at this, if you are looking at these kind of analysis and you're based out of, say, Bangkok, the amount of sun that's just hammering your building informs how much openings you want to put there or how much insulation you want to do, which is strange to me here in Norway because we just want more sun. But you can start to really dive in and look and see, look at the qualities you are creating. So for example, these buildings are so close together that you're getting dark blue areas, which is areas where it will be difficult to provide adequate daylight, which means, one of 2 things. Do you care about daylight there? Maybe you don't. If you do, consider how you program this. And then you can start looking at this. Now, is it sun hours and the score? And you see how you can sort of start picking this apart and look at the problem areas. Say this rooftop where ideally should be for a restaurant. It's probably, there's good sun hours here, and maybe June 21st isn't where I want to look at. I want to look at what happens here on my birthday, August 30th. Happy birthday me. And you can start breaking this down, really, really, really like dig into the data and make sure that the stuff you're designing works for the intent you have. Yeah, I hope this is informative. It is 2 minutes past 6, so we're good on time. We'll be running till 18:30, and I hope to spend at least 15 minutes on the Q&A, so keep your questions coming. And then, yeah, we'll just truck on. Next up, we're moving over to board. Now, board is interesting because we all use these infinite white space boards, like be it Mural or Miro or TL Draw or any of these. What I find interesting here is that this is not a screenshot. It's connected to the actual model we're looking at, which means that you can go and you can add the stuff, and this can update live as you change your stuff. It's connected to the proposal you're designing. So you go and change your proposal, and then you go back and it's been updated, and you can start pinning out, different views. Kind of similar to Compare. Compare is I'm looking at it live right now. And then, okay, I need to discuss this, and I'm pinning it up on the board for discussion, right? And you can add post-its, you can do revision clouds, you can do all these kind of things that you would expect to do. Point out somebody else's mistake if you'd like, maybe make a comment. Let's review next Monday. And this is a collaborative space. So I could drop the link here and you would all be in there with names, and we could kind of point and build this together. Everything in Forma Site Design is kind of set up so that multiple people can work on it together in separate proposals and then come together in board and collaborate. Now, does it have to be only from Forma? It definitely doesn't. So the site here is inspired by a French architect firm called Harmonic and Masson, and Associates. It's one of these pet projects that you really love. You see them once and you kind of fall in love with it. So clearly the massing model I have here doesn't translate correctly into the beautiful architecture they're making. I love the different transparencies they're doing with the facades and the setbacks and the balconies and stuff. All of this kind of design is just, you know, it's so smart to do because we already saw there's a lot of sun hitting this, right? And on this, you can start to draw. I'm going to use my Wacom tablet, and you kind of doodle along as you want. You know, hello. And play on top of this, just as you would expect. So that this is a tool that invites in people that are not only sitting in Forma Site Design, but needs to be a part of the collaborative process. And of course, you'll see here, sorry, I'm just going to zoom out with my fingers. This is a docs link. It's a PDF from docs. I kind of just tossed in there. Say this is relevant for my project. I can toss in links like you saw above. I can toss in images. I can toss in everything, most of the stuff I find on docs. And if I click this, I can then continue to explore it in docs. So I can pop it out, and then you get the Autodesk viewer like you would expect. And you open it, and you can kind of explore from there. Lovely tool. Just one of those things that's so neat to just have in in your workspace instead of having to screenshot everything you do and then go somewhere else and do it. Now, if you were making a sort of like professional presentation, you might just be as dependent on InDesign as the rest of the design world is, but getting these kind of like white walls up and running, this is perfect. Yeah, that was the live demo. I'm gonna go jump on over and talk a little bit about the ecosystem. I hope I'm not going too fast. You guys are still listening, aren't bored out of your mind, and that you have some good questions for me in the end. So I'm gonna tab on over. We're back in the show note tell, right? Yep, that's what you're seeing. I promised you not a lot of slides, and there's a couple more slides. I'm sorry. Ecosystems. Now, just to recap, this enables users to use the best tool for the job. And, in my opinion, the best tool of the job is a constantly changing metric. But still, you need to stay connected. It enables you to customize to meet the specialized need you may have. And it sort of facilitates the easy how to manage and access for third-party data and capabilities. Now, an example of that, we talked about data availability, right? If you are an ArcGIS person, then the extension from S3, the ArcGIS Online in Forma, might be exactly what you're looking for. So you would then go into your library and connect. I'm sorry, I clicked, didn't mean to click. I'm going to jump on back, my bad. There we go. So you can go into your extensions, you can open your ArcGIS extension, and then from there, you can start to add the layers that you are building up in ArcGIS. Me, myself, whenever it comes to GIS, I get scared. That's when I go to the urban planner for help. But getting this stuff into Forma is pretty straightforward and kind of allows me to play on their side of the field for a while. And obviously, this then allows you to look at data layers that you wouldn't natively get in Forma. So say somebody logged a flooding map or somebody logged zoning maps for your city. You can kind of start pulling those apart, putting them into Forma. And again, because the model is geo-referenced, you can sort of say, tell me about stuff that's within the boundaries of my project. And if you're an ArcGIS customer today, this is a no-brainer. Now, another favorite, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, your design tools are interesting, but I want to use my good old Revit, Rhino integration. So same sort of deal. You can sort of load your site context in Forma, just like before. And then you open Rhino, and then you use the extension available from the App Store inside of Forma Site Design. And you connect these two things together. So instead of sitting in Forma and doing your design, you just connect the two worlds. And you say, hey, in Rhino, bring me the surrounding context, the model that I saw in Forma. This is in Rhino. You get the whole thing, and these things are now linked. So you sit, and you can bake buildings in. You can change and design and update. You can do your design task, create whatever proposal you want in Rhino, and then say, okay, this is what I'm going with, this is what I'm going to be using, and then click to update it inside of Forma, like you can see on screen right now. This solves this is a connector made by Autodesk just to prove a point. Like any extension builder with an API could make this kind of connect them themselves. I would love to see it on SketchUp. I would love to see it in Blender. I don't care, really. Bring whatever you want. You get to use your favorite design tool. You can also just import an IFC or a 3D model, and then analyze it in Forma in a georeference model and get the quality information you need. Enough about that. I was going to talk about this. I'm going to skip it. This is an example of sort of a premium extension. So Podium is built for data centers specifically. It's a very niche use case. They have this thing where you set up a site and they say, okay, within this building, what kind of data center can I build? And then you build this data center up, click a build automation, and you sort of get stuff that's not really pertaining to Forma site design, but might be relevant to your specific workflow. And then you get to analyze it and use the analysis tools in Forma. Now, this specific use case, I don't find that interesting, but imagine sort of you have a building portfolio, or you have some sort of like modules you want to be using in your firm. You could kind of build this yourself or use Dynamo to do similar designs. Now, that is Forma site design in a nutshell in 40 minutes. I'm kind of dry in my mouth, so I hope you guys are keeping up. Let's talk a little bit about Autodesk Forma and the AU announcement recaps. What is AU? Let's start there. Autodesk University. That is the conference from Autodesk. And it was a couple of weeks ago. A lot of things were said. Inside Autodesk, we have a tendency to believe that everybody kind of watches this stuff. I know that if you are in your 10-man firm and you're busy making business happen, you probably didn't have time to fly out to check this out. There are some available on-demand sessions. You should check it out. The general sessions are good, and there are specific tools you kind of go say, tell me about Forma and how I connect it to Dynamo, and then you get to see these digital on-demand sessions. So pick them up as you need, is my recommendation. I'd love to come with some recommendations, but I promise I wouldn't spend too much time talking about this. It's a great event. That's what I want to say. Now, these are the things that was announced at AU pertaining to Forma. There's a lot of announcements. Autodesk works across AEC, design and manufacturing, media and entertainment, but let's keep it to Forma for now. The big one, which you kind of covered already, is ACC is now becoming part of Forma. Or maybe you should say Forma is becoming part of ACC and ACC is rebranding to Forma. Pick your poison. It's going to integrate natively into ACC. There's going to be shared navigation. And then it's going to start to connect design to construction in a logical way. Autodesk Construction Cloud, Forma Industry Cloud. Clearly, both are clouds. And Autodesk doesn't want two of them. They want the AECO ecosystems to live within a Forma branding. And then there's a Fusion branding for design and manufacturing, and then there's a Flow branding for media and entertainment. This is just to make it easier to understand what's going on. Now, next up, we already covered this. We're establishing the Forma data management. That was the other big announcement, which is Autodesk Docs is becoming Forma data management. This is the foundation. Now, what I showed you today, bunch of data, lots of analyses, contextual data, mass modelings, 0 files. If you click download somewhere, you would get an IFC somewhere, and that would be a file. But you didn't really need a file to do the work we just did, right? This is why a common data environment is kind of the lingo of the day. Put your stuff on Docs for data management. Use this stuff, the data there, to get additional information, right? Now, next up, in the ecosystem bulk, there's a contextual data marketplace that allows third parties to start offering paid data sets directly in Forma. That is good because a lot of the data we use day to day, we would love for it to be free. It's not. And going somewhere else to some vendor, buying it, uploading it yourself, it's just there's just extra steps. You might as well just be able to do it directly within. So that's what they're hoping to establish. Soon, and for some of you, maybe you joined this thinking we were talking about that, is the expansion into Forma building design. So today was Forma site design. Forma building design is about supporting floor plans and facades and programs in a contextual cloud native design surface. Forma-like is what I would want to call it. So for architects and engineers to start using generative design capabilities and just really good design tools in general. I've played with it. I recommend you check it out once it comes. There's a webinar upcoming the 28th. Is it the 28th, Sophia? Could you drop the link in the chat? So if you want to learn more about that, you go ahead and click that link and join us for the next one. It won't be me, but I'll be watching with you. Next up is, so one of the insights, we've had an embodied carbon analysis for early stage in Forma. This is expanding into a total carbon analysis. So one thing is basic assumptions based on mass models. Another thing is informed assumptions or informed estimations based on actual bill of materials, right? Now, and sort of a live end-to-end whole life carbon insight helps you to optimize for carbon all the way through your progress. So it's a really sort of proof point and something that a lot of us care more about now than we did 20 years ago, right? Is what's the carbon tax of doing what I'm doing? In the longer future, you'll start to see the Forma connected clients show up, with Revit being the first one. And lastly, Forma board, which I showed off, which access from within Forma Site Design, will also be directly accessible from ACC, which is again becoming Forma. So, it's a wash. That was the big announcements, the big Forma announcements from Autodesk University. I hope I tickled some interest and you want to check it out. And I figured let's jump on over to some questions and answers for the last 15 or so minutes. So let's see, what do we have? Where is the Q&A? Doug asks, where is Tandem? Tandem is on the operations side. I should have tossed it in there. I didn't. That's my bad. And what's interesting about Tandem, the digital twin offering, is really that in the future, with the advent of retrofits and changing buildings, a new project doesn't necessarily start with nothing. It usually starts with an existing asset. Now, Tandem and the digital twin things is a really important part of this. Autodesk Tandem is for the operator, the owner-operator of the building, and allows you to manage the building through its life cycle. Chris asks, is improving LOD for site design on the roadmap? And the answer is absolutely. There are a few different ways to address this. Number one, the Forma connected clients means that you'll be able to use Revit to get Forma-like capabilities within Forma. That is an interesting sort of avenue for this. I saw a lot of you said that Forma was your preferred design, early stage design tool. And then there's Forma building design, which sort of has my my ears perking up. And again, you should check out the webinar. Peter asks, large site design includes areas such as roads, grading. Why is Civil 3D not included? So Forma site design is again for the architect, urban planner, sort of site, is like focusing around on the site. Definitely larger scale projects is of interest. Civil 3D, super interesting. I hope it's going to be, it'll be a connected client in the future. I hope there's stuff happening in that space. Again, can't talk too much into the future, but you should pay attention because it's going to get good real fast. Is Forma design intended to supplant InfraWorks, Jeff? Not really, no. There's a lot of overlapping sort of, no, I wouldn't say capabilities, but overlapping sort of interests there. And again, Forma is the AECO industry cloud for Autodesk. people at these other companies, at these other parts of the organization. So Revit people are building for Forma. Format people are building for Forma. Forma people are building for Forma. ACC is building for Forma. And so it goes. I would love to see the pedestrian pathing simulations from InfraWorks make it way into Forma. That'd be really cool to see. I think capabilities is the key word here, right? I see more questions. Eamon asks, how does Autodesk Forma handle topography modeling and real-world site data integration during the early design phase? So there are capabilities within Forma Site Design to edit terrain. So you get terrain from your contextual data. You could use as is, but usually there's a lot of grading required in order to finish your site. There are, again, we're talking early site design conceptual modeling. So there's ways to build building pads. I would love to see more grading tools. I know there's a lot of interest in that area, and I hope to be able to tell you more soon. Is it dark in Norway already yet? Rick, that is a fun question. It is. I think I've got 1 more hour of daylight, but it's rapidly getting darker quicker. Do you want to see out the window? Yep. So still got some daylight. Hopefully I'll be home before the sun sets. We'll see. And I am not seeing many questions that haven't been answered. Lisa, is there anything I should be picking up here that haven't been put down? Let's see. Brian, what am I saying? Brian asks, were there plans to be able to link it to QGIS? Not that I'm aware. ArcGIS extension is out. Esri is kind of first out here. I know QGIS is a popular tool. So moving the CityGML data back and forth, we'll see. The interesting part is really once you start using docs to repo this stuff, what can be surfaced, right? In different parts of Forma or FCC. Alma asks, so with the information it spits out and it gives once you run one of these studies, is there something that helps you interpret the information? Yes. So you can set sort of barriers and levels. So telling you that, well, only 50% of your facades is reaching the barrier or level you wanted to hit. So say you wanted at least 5 hours of sunlight on June 21st, and you want to be warned if something's below it. You can do manual filtering to sort of figure this out, or you can just tell me how many percent I'm actually hitting here. This is really relevant in areas that have requirements for example, sunlight on outdoor area on your site, which is a relevant code regulation in Norway, for example. Same for noise, same for these kind of things. You can say, hey, this is not achieving the goal you set it out to be. And it starts breaking this information down into, on facades, on ground, on building. Mark, yes, this webinar is recording and definitely available on demand. So you should forward it to all your colleagues. I am just as handsome on recording as I am live. No, that's a lie, but hopefully this information is good. We are nearing time. Let's just see if a few things I can pick up before we round off. Hey, who laughed? I wasn't being funny. I was being serious. Greg asks about integrating DXF files with the right coordination in Poland. That is one of those like brain teasers that is so annoying that it just doesn't work correctly. There's a problem with the coordination system in Poland. I've heard of this question before. You should reach out to, there's a help center and then chat inside of Forma, because I know there's people that are specifically thinking about this. You should reach out in product and poke them and ask for help. And again, Greg, add me on LinkedIn and remind me if you can't get this sorted, and I'll try to figure it out together with you. Transcript of the QA to present to participant URLs I've included. The URLs that have been linked in chat will come in a follow-up email together with the recording. Sophia will get you sorted. Doug asks, how does S3 ArcGIS work with Forma Site Design? Are the buildings being generated by another data source? So in S3 ArcGIS, this data lives somewhere else. You can surface it in Forma, and then you can bake it, so basically make it part of Forma. Say this object I'm clicking on now is actually a building. This surface I'm targeting now is actually a site limit. You can sort of feed this information into Forma so that you build your model that way, instead of ordering the contextual data, which I demo in the Germany site earlier. Again, Greg, with the Polish questions. I love this. Different approach to sun analysis in Poland. You have every 15 minutes. You want to know something about it, right? I think you can tweak this. I know there's other Polish users that have been playing with this before. I wish I were more familiar with this, but I know there's something there, and I know it's been solved before. So hopefully the help guys will get you sorted, and if not, remind me. Is it available to insert Forma context in Mexico? Mexico at least have OpenStreet data sources, which are free. You can also bring your own stuff. So if wherever you prefer to get it today, get an IFC, import it in. I don't think there's any sort of high quality data sources there. It's dependent on what the local area provides, right? So if Mexico has a great GIS database we can connect to that we aren't connected to, let us know. We want to know. There's a report contextual databases linked directly in product, because we're really keen. Sometimes it is, but they're not keen on connecting to us, and we need to connect to them, and it's always sort of going back and forth to get it sorted out. But Mexico would be sweet. Will Forma become part of Revit in the future? Or will one stay as a web service, other as an app? I think it's better to think of it as an industry cloud. There are capabilities in Forma that are natural to put inside of Revit. There are Revit features that are natural to put in a cloud service instead. And there's a meeting point here. I don't decide the stuff, but if you look at how Revit today uses Insight, the analysis tool there, right? You use your Revit model, you generate a analytical model, and then you upload that to a cloud service that does the work and comes back to you with the answer. I think that's probably where we're playing, with these capabilities being surfaced where you need them the most. Imagine when we start doing stuff like structural loads or wind loads based on contextual data on steel structures. There's a lot of interesting things you can do in this space if you think of it as, can we surface a simulation where it's needed? Anyway, that was just me spitballing. We're closing in on half. I am gonna end it there. I hope you all guys, learned something and found me entertaining, or at least mildly informative. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Ladies, have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night if you're on the wrong part of the world. And thanks for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.